So I made a video where I said when I upload it that the oath will be sealed. I do believe that now the sun is setting, and I want to talk about no clear fusion, to know something versus no. And I want to talk about being confused. Forgive them, Lord, because they are confused. And I'm going to separate the light from the darkness to the best of my ability and use light to conquer the dark. So when we talk about virtue, we'll start there. Ver equals man. Now, there is mankind, and of course, the word kind. Virtue is the spirit of harmony, generosity, valor, which is a manly strength. We'll get into how this affects women in a moment. Chastity, especially in women. Okay, so when women consider divine reproduction and the quality of a man, with a certain proficiency and excellency, and she becomes a virtuous woman. That's why the Bible says she's saved in faith and propriety, and so on. Virtue is also seen as, virtue of, through the force or authority of, right? It's a capacity to act, a moral excellency. And the definition I do not like is the conformity to a standard of right. And this goes back to moral relativism. To me, virtue is timeless, and one should stop at nothing to maintain it. And going back to the standard was the kind of flag bearer, a standard, a symbol on a pole that people would rally to. So the leopard as the standard is where the Biafrans would rally to. And you could see Ethiopians as a very beautiful people, where if you had a choice and you were in the trade routes, and you were an African who decided to live in Africa, as opposed to someone deciding to live somewhere else, that you would probably choose to try to settle down over there. It's kind of like as Americans, we choose where to settle down to a large extent, if we have, the financial ability. So I like a lot of people to think about it is it's established by authority, custom, or general consent. And this tends to be something that comes as a result of educated people writing it down and putting it into peer-reviewed research and periodicals and journals, for instance. Okay, so when we talk about celestial, there's actually a celestial hierarchy referred to in Webster's. I'm not quite sure where they got it. Perhaps I should look that up before I made this video, but I'm not perfect anyway. It starts, the lowest is the angels, then the archangels, then the principalities, the powers, the virtues, okay, the dominions, the thrones, the cherubims, and finally the seraphim. Okay, so I think it's very interesting to note that to me the thrones represents the kind of kings and royalty, people who sit on thrones. And the cherubims represent the transcendent hero who's a guardian of light, such as the cherubim guarding the Garden of Eden, who is, of Eden or Adon, right, the bright morning star, who is, is a transcendent hero who's envied by the king. And the seraphim is a hero who is a king, okay, and seraphim are said to be six-winged angels in the presence of God, which leads us to harp. Right? Angels are said to play a harp. Okay, a harp can be seen as something as harping on, right? Dwelling on something timelessly and endlessly, which is very much what you see in my videos, where I'm dwelling on this thing from a very light tempo perspective, not like in Alex Jones' perspective, whatever his motives may be, from a more kind of angry Southern, patriot kind of perspective, perhaps. And so, it's important to know that, and then you get the harpy, part woman, part bird, who's evil. Okay, so to me, when you talk about the A, the highest form of woman is a woman who is an A, who reproduces in the spirit of light, and she cares about her children. And and this goes back to Harry, which is torment, force, or raid, right? So Prince Harry might be that. Um, and you have the hare, right? It's part of the Leporidae family, where there are slight nuances in the words and the spelling, and great differences in the meaning. A hare reproduces in this kind of spirit of avoiding trouble, avoiding conflicts, and eating, vegetables of the earth. Okay, which is one of the differences between the bull and the leopard. The leopard protects people willingly, I'd say, in the spirit of God and otherwise. There's a certain awareness of the natural order, what it can eat and what it can't eat. There's a certain instinctual awareness, natural and supernatural awareness in all beings. And so it eats the enemies of human beings. And, like the Icamum, I believe it's called, Icamon, this kind of ferret-looking animal, perhaps, or, that eats the eggs of the crocodiles, and I'm sure the snakes, thus keeping people safe to a certain degree. So the leopard, I'm sure, comes in conflict with snakes and kills them, and with other predators that prey on human beings. And of course, if you're having a really bad day, it perhaps will prey on you. But how much out of tune with nature would you have to be for you to be preyed on by a leopard is another way to look at it. Okay, so when we look at the Harlequin, right? Harlequin, it's a demon. It's a pantomime, pant, oh, mine, and so on. Okay, so heraldry, to trace and record genealogies, gene-a-logos. So when we look at this thing, right, it is a really sad situation, and I didn't want to do this in 2 clips, but I'm gonna have to do this in another clip because there's this salsa bottle that says pace on it and has a symbol of the sun, and that goes back to my argument of God speed and light speed. And I think it's very important that people understand that and stop playing stupid and look at popular culture, right? Luke Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker, the Millennium Falcon, Han Solo's ship, okay, Sol-O, right? Han Solo, Sol-O, the soul being the sun in the Roman, pagan mythology system, the Roman pantheon, if you will. The sun is at the center, and even pantheon can be seen as a play on the word pant or panther. Okay, so yes, I'm going to show you that, and I think I'll just wrap it up there. I wrote a beautiful kind of couple pages on some more stuff, but I think it's time to wrap it up. And now I'm just going to pray that God helps me understand whether I should upload the video I made about being abstinent. It's probably not of the utmost importance to a lot of you, but to me it is. So dear Lord, please give me the strength to understand whether I should refrain from having any kind of sexual behavior or relationships with women. Should I keep looking even though I'm targeted and all that would entail? What is the correct thing to do? You are my Father in heaven. You control the world. Nothing matters more than serving you. Nothing matters more than that. God is all that matters. And when you love someone, let it be loving God and them. The only reason I interrupted my prayer because there was one last thing I wanted to say. It's that important. Okay. Jacob comes from the sky to the heart ritually to plant his soul heir in the world. The answer, Ra, Soul, Hero, from Ra, Shu, and Haru. Think of Bob Marley, Ra Staff, Airy Heights, and the leopard's coordination and speed from nature. Africa Unite and Nigeria, the most populated African nation. And in the heart, think of Ethiopians as beautiful, and Bob as a hare from the leopard-eyed family, and staying behind for the woman and not a threat to the neighboring aggressors, and the leopard as a rallying point for standards of the Grace Wars. I'm not saying there aren't some beautiful evil women, and I'm not trying to offend anyone. I just call it how I see it. And yes, I do believe that Ethiopian women tend to be more beautiful than Nigerian women. And again, I'm not trying to as far as physical attraction, And there's a certain typically from what I gather, they seem to have a higher frequency of women who are submissive to men versus Nigerian women who, as a result of the rallying point in Africa, perhaps have a higher frequency of kind of feminist, outspoken, aggressive women in a way that mimics men, like Sekhmet or something. And if you look at the story in mythology, Sekhmet, I'm going to put her picture at the end. She is like this bloodthirsty, person who's only appeased when they pour wine mixed with berries on the ground, and then she eats that up instead of going after the blood of people, and then she gets drunk and forgets her rage. So, the sun can be seen as it gives light and life to restore the divine order, and it wants to be friends with everyone. Or that's why it doesn't destroy us all. Does the sun really need our planets spinning around it to survive? Why did it come to a point where it was just enough density and mass and nuclear fusion and fission or whatever caused it to come together in this kind of gaseous cloud, right? This kind of vapor, vaporize, this vapor that continues to provide us with light and sustain us, Well, what was it? Obviously there's a grand design here. And, the way the things come together with the beauty it comes together in, I think it is impossible, in my opinion, to explain that away without a God. And so let me give you the salsa model, which proves my point. Maybe this Bob Marley can, the representation of him is different than he looked more like me than the can, ironically, even though I'm not Ethiopian, but I'm part white like he was. And there's certain similarities with the nose structure, kind of facial structure, kind of like an Italian structure in a way, this kind of long, the ones who have like a longer face, this Mediterranean kind of face. And, it just goes to show you that we have to show people the good in our culture. And a great measure of a man and of a woman is the ability to appreciate the good and to connect the things together and to act accordingly, to live life according to this harmony and this truth.